guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to make this little guy. I'm using worsted weight yarn. It's way easier to work with. The rolls that I'm using, I actually bought those great big ones at Walmart for 10 bucks, so if that helps. I'm using a 5mm or an H hook. We're going to start with a magic ring. We want this guy nice and round and fat, so we're going to put 10 single crochets into the center of that ring. You can pull that closed. I got dog hair on me. Okie dokie. So you're going to put 2 single crochets in each of these 10 stitches for 20. So you don't really need a stitch marker now, but you will need a stitch marker for this project. Like most of my projects. So after the first one, you're going to put your stitch marker in. Holy heck, I got a lot of hair hanging off me. And then you can put the second one in that same space. And then the rest, two in the rest. So you should have 20 altogether when you're done. That's my 20. Pull your middle closed. And now you're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase. It is going to get squishy, but we want him nice and round. Her, him, I don't know what Jigglypuff is. So that's your 1 single crochet, and then your increase is 2 single crochets in the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. That's your repeat. So repeat that all the way around. At the end you should have 30 stitches. And yes, it is very squishy, so just be aware that you're not skipping a stitch. Alright, so you should have 30 stitches, and your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase for 40. 40 stitches at the end of it. So that's your 1 single crochet, and it gets the stitch marker. Your next stitch will get a crochet, single crochet. So that's 2 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase. So 1 1 2 1 1 2 all the way around, and at the end of it you should have 40 stitches. So that's my 40. Now the next row is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch around, so you can count to make sure you have 40 before we do our last and final increase after that. And if you don't, you'll have to take away or add some, or whatever, stay on track. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets in an increase, and at the end of it you should have 50 stitches, and then that's it. This is our final one. So that's your 1 single crochet, 3 single crochets, and then your next stitch will get the increase, which is 2 single crochets in that stitch. So I'll repeat this all the way around, and at the end of it you should have 50 stitches. Okay, so I've got my 50 stitches. So for the next 10 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around. And then we'll come back and start to decrease. So I am obviously not doing all of this with you. I'll put my boss screen up and I'll meet you on the other side. Alright, so I'm done my 10 rows, so this is what it should look like. So we're going to start decreasing now. And we're going to start with a 3 single crochet decrease. So it's a, how's your first one? It's a pretty quick decrease. That's my 3 single crochets, counting this one. Sorry, helps if I'm a little more on camera. So your decreases, you're going to go into your first stitch, you're going to yarn over, pull through. Go into the second stitch, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops, and you're going to yarn over and come through all 3 of those loops. That's a decrease. And then repeat 3 single crochets and a decrease. So do that all the way around, and at the end of it you should have 40 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease, and then you can go ahead and do a round after that of 1 single crochet. You should have 30 stitches to do all of this in. You should have 30 stitches at the end of your decrease. And I will put my pause screen up for that after I'm done working with you here. So this is your first single crochet. This is your second single crochet, and then your decrease. So that's what you're going to repeat all the way around. 2 single crochets and a decrease. And at the end you should have 30 stitches, and then you're going to do a round of 1 single crochet in each stitch for 30 stitches. And then I'll meet you back here after for another decrease round. You can start stuffing at any time. So I'm going to put a little bit of stuffing in mine just to kind of get it started, because we're just about done with this part. So the reason I pull mine apart is because I don't like bunching, and that just kind of helps, you know, with not bunching. I also like to put my stuffing in and then push it around to the outside, and then stuff the middle and then push that around to the outside. Gives it a nice even round stuff. And I don't tend to overstuff as often if I do it this way than any other way. Sometimes I can overstuff. Sometimes anybody can overstuff. So that's just me. I'm sure you've got your own way of stuffing. But if you're a newbie to all this, then you're not really going to know. So if you push on it and it bounces back, then you know you have enough stuffing. If it doesn't bounce back, then you know you need some more. I just need a little bit more. Mine bounced back-ish, but not enough. Plus, I know that I'm closing out the top, so I'm still probably going to put a little bit more in after I start to close it. Yeah, see, that feels better to me. And it's nice and round because I pushed it all out and did all that, so. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and a decrease. And at the end of it you should have 20 stitches. And then you can do just a round of single crochets in those 20 stitches. So 1 single crochet and a decrease all the way around. So I think this round you can pull tight-ish. Now it doesn't matter what the top of this is going to look like because we are putting that piece of hair or whatever it is on top. That little curly Q thing. So it doesn't really matter. But you also still probably want to make it as neat as you can. So this is about what you should have right now. So your next row is going to be decreasing 10 times. We're going to do 2 decreases like that where it's just a straight up decrease. So you don't need your stitch marker anymore. So that's your first decrease. So do this 9 more times. So that's my 10. Before we do our final decrease, I just want to shove some more down there. I generally have to shove more in there. I just like to get it up underneath that lip just to make sure it's absolutely as full as I can without overfilling it, if that makes sense. It's just because it's so hard to get the top full. And I think that's good. So now you're going to decrease 6 times. Oh, sorry, 5 times. I did 10, right? So you decrease 5 more times. And then we're going to sew the rest shut. I almost did a single crochet. So we're able to crochet the majority of it. We just got a little ways to go. You can go into your next stitch. You can slip stitch And you can fasten off. So fasten off with enough to finish sewing the rest shut, which is no big deal, and then enough to weave in through the Jigglypuff. Just for added security. So you're going to want to come in through this stitch, only one piece, and go out through that next stitch. And again, one more time, in through this stitch, out through that stitch, and then you're just going to pull as tight as you can. And then you can come across and just kind of secure it a little bit, just so you know it's not going to come open. Now keep in mind, we are putting that big thing on his head, so. And then you can just weave in and out. Different directions. If you do pull too hard, like I just did, just come in with your needle in. Oh, I took some stuffing up with me. And just come up with whatever you can get in there and pull that back into place. So you can tie a knot for added security. You can tie a knot, bring it down as close as you can to the doll. You don't need to make it tight. It doesn't need to be a tight knot. I mean tight so that it's not going to come open, but not tight where it's so small it's not going to do its job. So it's meant to get stuck on a fabric or the filling if it ever tries to come undone. So now you can just shape your Jigglypuff just like that, nice and round. This guy turned out rounder because I put more stuffing in him. So it all depends on how you stuff it. So when we carry on, you can use this as the top if you don't like the look of this. It doesn't matter now what the top is. It's just a round pink ball. So you can put your hair up here, you can put your hair up here. It really doesn't matter which one you do. You just need to choose. So let's move on to this weird hair thing, because that seemed to be my biggest hurdle, was trying to get this right. And I don't know why my camera is not focusing very good. So I just changed a setting on it, so hopefully it stops going blurry. I don't know why it's doing that. So, yeah, this piece of hair was my nemesis. So you're going to make a magic ring and you put 8, no, you're going to put 6 single crochets inside this ring. So you're going to put 1 single crochet in an increase in here. So there's your 1 single crochet with your stitch marker, and then your increase, which we know is 2 single crochets in the same space. 1 single crochet, increase. So at the end of this you should have 9 stitches all together. And if you've ended at your marker with your increase, then you've done everything right. That's generally the gauge I use. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's my first guy. Next stitch gets 1, and the next stitch gets the increase. 1 1 2 1 1 2. So at the end of this, you should have 12 stitches. So you can turn it right side in now if you want. Your next row is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. So you're only going up by 3s. I know I've told you before that generally you increase each row by 6. If you start with a single crochet magic ring with 6 single crochets, each row will be increased by 6. If you start your rows with 2 single crochets in each stitch, then your increase rows. If you start just increasing with 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets, you will increase each row by 3. But it does give it a pointier look when you do it that way. So that's your first one. We're doing 3 single crochets and an increase. 3 single crochets and then your increase. So at the end of this, you should have 15 stitches. And again, if you've ended at your marker with your increase, you've done everything right. Next 2 rows is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, each of those 15 stitches for 2 rows. So this is where it's going to get weird. But I had to make it turn somehow. So for the next 7 stitches, you're going to put a single crochet, 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches. So that's number 1 with your marker. That's 7. You're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn. And you're going to go back the other way, but you're only going to go back 6. So get into this first stitch here. This is how it looks when you're holding it. You have to pull it back to see that first stitch. Make sure you get into that, it's important. So single crochet 6. So that's 6, chain 1, turn your work. Sorry, my allergies are acting up again. Now you're going to single crochet 5, starting in this first stitch. So you're not going into that stitch. You're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn. Now you're going to single crochet 4, starting in that first stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. Single crochet 3. Chain 1, turn your work. Single crochet 2, chain 1, turn your work. So now we're on the outside, which we should be on the outside. Dragging my stuffing. So this is where you're going to single crochet down the steps. So there's 2 single crochets there. Your next single crochet is going to be here down in this stitch because you don't have any more stitches. So come down here and single crochet. So that gets pushed out. Same thing, you need to walk down the steps. Go back down the next level, single crochet. And then you're going to go down to this level, the normal level, and single crochet. It'll all make sense in the end. So now you can single crochet around. So you're at your marker. Marker doesn't really matter at this point, but you want to keep it there. So put your marker back, and now you're going to crochet up the steps like this, like you just came down, but you're going to single crochet up, and that gets pushed out. Go up your next step, that gets pushed out, and now you can go right up to here. So do you see how it's going to turn? And now we're done. Now you're just going to do regular crochets. So you should have 18 stitches. So for the next 4 rows, we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch. So preferably, and hopefully, you have 18. That's what's supposed to work out to. So at my stitch marker, I'm at 12 right now, but if I count 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, this is where I started. So we're going to start counting at our marker. So we're not going to count what we just did. Other than that's 1 row. And now we're going on to the 2nd row. But as far as stitches, we're going to start counting our stitches here at this marker to see if we have 18. So I'm short a stitch, so I'm going to put 2 in that space there. So it should look similar to a slipper right now. You can put stuffing in anytime you want. 2 more rows of this going around. So I'm done my 2 rows. I'm going to shove some stuffing in here. Then we're going to start decreasing. So you want to keep that point on his hair. But you really want to make sure that this part here that we just spent all that time doing, make sure you get stuffing in there, so because that's what his hair does. It kind of curls around. So this is not the easiest thing to stuff. It's very difficult to try to get this shape. And it's not even a perfect science, so the shape is still just not the shape. So I should put pipe cleaners in there or something to hold it. I don't know. That was the shape I had for this guy. And then once it was on its head, I just turned it like this, you can spray starch it if you want, and it doesn't really seem to move. So it's all up to you. But that's how you make something turn. So even an arm, you want to do an arm. If you're doing an arm for a doll, that's how you do it. So I am now going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease. There's 1 single crochet. Put in the right one. 2 and 3, and then a decrease. This is the first time. So 3 single crochets and a decrease. That's 2 times. Three single crochets and a decrease. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease, and I should have, that's my first one, that's my second one, I should have 10 stitches at the end of this. I'm going to do my decrease under my marker. Something went wrong somewhere, but that's okay, we can fix it. So 1 single crochet in each of what should be 10 stitches for the next 2 rows. So this is where I'm going to be able to fix whatever mistake I made. Wherever I did it, I don't know. So you can go ahead and fasten off. That's it. That's it for this funny piece of hair. Fasten off the sewing tail. Go into your next stitch. Pull this through. Gives it a more even keel up here, and you can finish stuffing it. So we're not going to sew any of this stuff on yet. We're going to get it all made first, and then we're going to sew it on, because with such a small space it's very difficult to try to determine where you want your eyes. This hair goes in between the ears, but again, it's hard to determine where in fact you want to place your ears. So everything depends on everything else as far as where you want it. So really stuff this good so you can shape it if you want to. So it's going to go on the head like that, and then you can shape it however you want to. Really try to get it up into this part though. So I sewed the end together. If you don't feel this is long enough, you can add a couple more rows. That's completely up to you. But I sewed the top shut because it's way easier to sew onto the head. So once you think you got enough stuffing in there, you just go ahead and sew the top shut. I'm just going through the two pieces, doing a whip stitch, but I'm not doing a whip stitch. So I'm going through all 4 pieces, where a whip stitch would be back loop to back loop, and I'm going through all the pieces of yarn, so all 4. There, we can set this aside and we can move on. So let's move on to the ears. So we're going to do some ears. So we're going to magic ring it. And we're going to get 6 single crochets on the inside of that ring. So I want these pointy, so I'm just going to go straight into a 1 single crochet in each stitch around. That's how I'm going to get the point. So you can just count 6. That's my 6. Turn this. So to keep that middle closed, pull it as tight as you can. Let's just tie a knot and be done with this nonsense. So we're not going to tie a tight knot, we're just tying a knot. If it was tight, it may try to wiggle loose. And you're also not going to cut it off all the way down to the knot. You're going to leave some so it doesn't try to wiggle loose either. So we're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase. So there's my 1 single crochet. And my increase is 2, which I'm sure you know by now. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. One single crochet, 2 single crochet. So you should end off at the marker with your increase. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. Two single crochets and then your increase. So 1 1 2 1 1 2 1 1 2. So if you're ending at your marker with your 2 single crochets, you have probably done everything right. You should have 12 stitches. And your next row is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. Right now you should have 15 stitches. After this row you should have 18 stitches. Four single crochets and an increase. So now you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around to end it, and then we can do the inner ear. We'll do the black part. So you should have 18 stitches. This is where you can fix, add or take away whatever you have to do. So that's my 18 stitches. I'd add an extra one in the last stitch, but that's okay. So you can fasten off. Apparently I'm going to do it the hard way. With a sewing tail. So go ahead and make your second one, and I'll meet you back here. I'll put the pattern up for you, and I'll meet you back here, and we can do that black part, inner ear. So I have my second ear done, and I already put the black middle inside ear on. So that's what we're going to do next. You're going to need a 4mm or G hook for this, and you're just going to do a slip knot. You're going to chain 2, and in the first chain you're going to put 2 single crochets. You're going to chain 1, pull your slip knot closed, and then you're going to turn your work, and in each of those 2 stitches you're going to put 2 single crochets in each. Make sure you're getting under both pieces of yarn, which always seems to be a task for me, but chain 1, turn your work. So now for the next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 4 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. Another single row. And that is it. You can fasten off with a sewing tail. Don't need much. So this guy here is your point, and try to keep your point. It's not easy, trust me. So you're going to take this from your point. Make sure this guy's at the back, so you're going to do it on the front here. So you're going to put that down inside the ear, and that's going to hold it in place while you sew on this part, preferably keeping your point. So I'm going to go down inside the ear first. So you're going to do long stitches in the back, short stitches in the front. Make sure you're not sewing the ears together. Long stitches in the back, short stitches in the front. Try to keep your point. I didn't do a very good job trying to keep my point in the last one. I kind of rounded off a bit, but do your best. So I'm staying completely in the black. I'm not even going into the pink because I don't want to see that. I did not mean to do that. So once you're done, you can just tie these. Tie this in a knot, double knot. And then you can just cut that off. So we are stuffing this, but we're gonna sew it onto the ear or onto the head like this. We're not sewing this together. So as after we sew half of it on, then we're gonna shove some stuffing up there and then we'll sew the rest on. So that's how we're gonna do that. So we're just gonna set this aside as well. Next, let's do these eyes, and then we'll do the arms and the eyes are super quick. Put your 4mm away now. Go back to your H, your 5. So starting with the white, you need white and blue. So starting with the white, you're going to make a magic ring. You're going to put 6 single crochets. You're going to pull and then you're going to switch to blue before you start anything. So just kind of hold it. You're going to go into your first stitch. Oops. Just trying to get this right. You're going to go into your first stitch. You're going to pick up that blue. You're going to come through and you're going to make a stitch. So now you got to really pull the white down. Pull the blue down. You're going to have to try to weave. You can pull that tail. You can weave the tail in if you want. It'd be 3 pieces. Or just worry about the 2 pieces. I like to just twist it all together and then try to weave it in. So that's your 1 single crochet. The next stitch you're going to do 2 half double crochets in this stitch. So try to weave in your business, which is so awkward, I know. Once you figure out how to hold it, it's not so bad. So that's number 1. 2 half double crochets into that stitch. Next stitch is going to be 2 half double crochets. And my middle's opening. I don't know which one is my tail. That one is. I don't really want my middle to open. The next 2 stitches are going to be 2 double crochets each. Then you're going to do 1 single crochet in here. You can probably stop weaving everything at this point. Well, you're going to have to, because after this you're leaving that. So you're going to chain 1 and turn. So all this straggly crap can be all cut off. Now you can cut your white. Cut the rest of your blue. Cut your white. So cut everything off. That's the glory of weaving everything in. So now you're going to put a single crochet in your first stitch. You're going to put a single crochet in your next stitch. Stitches are facing the wrong way, so this is not going to be easy. Well, none of this is easy. The next 2 stitches are going to get 2 half double crochets each. You just got to make sure you're going into the right stitch. The next 2 stitches are going to get 2 double crochets each. Then the next 2 get 2 half doubles. And the last stitch gets a single crochet. And then we're going to change back to our white. So this is where we're going to just go all the way around. You don't have to do this part, but I think it just cleans it up a bit. So go into the next stitch. Make sure you're underneath 2 pieces of yarn in this next stitch. Pull up your white, make a stitch. This is where you pull everything down nice and tight, and you can weave. You'll have to weave. So 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Make sure you're getting 2 pieces of yarn in that stitch plus your weave. It's awkward, but I mean, it's good at the end. And then into your stitches. You don't have to pull tight. And yeah, it's gonna curl. That was the whole point of putting one single crochet around, was to get that puffy look. Because he has very big puffy eyes. So once you get back up and around, you want to make sure you're covering this stitch so there's no blue that's popping through, so you can put a stitch there. Then right in the center you can fasten off. There, you got a big puffy eye. So fasten off with a sewing tail as usual. Go through the next stitch, pull this through, pull up when you tighten it, and that'll even everything up there. So you can cut all the crap off the back now. And that is one eyeball done. So you go ahead and make your other eyeball. I will do my best to write it out on the screen. And then we'll come back and do some arms and some legs and stuff like that. So I was going to do the arms and the feet, but I think we should start sewing on stuff. Just so we have an idea of where to put our arms and our feet. So I'm going to use this as a reference. I think what we first need to sew on is this middle thing. Whatever the heck you want to call this thing. I think we need to sew him on first. So I went pretty far back with him, just so that I had room for the eyes and stuff. So I'm literally, like, there's my center where I pulled it shut, and I'm beyond that by about 2 rows beyond that. So you can just, this one's easy, just do invisible stitches. So invisible stitching is, here, I'm going to come in closer. So invisible stitching is going down as close as you can to what you're sewing on, and then going up through the doll and into that stitch where a stitch would be, and pulling tight, and then repeating that. So it kind of sucks the stitch underneath. I don't know if you can see, that's my yarn right there. So when I pull tight, you can't tell that there's even a stitch there. So these are the best stitches I find for even holding stuff to stuff. But with this, I also found that I had to come up into this part here to hold it down. So that's what I'm doing next. So I'm going to go up and under, and I'm going to try to get right in the middle, because you just want to tack it. You don't need to make a cajillion stitches or anything. You just want to tack it down so when you go back down, go down as close as you can to your lead, just so that it looks like a stitch up here. And then I'm just going to pop out somewhere underneath it. And it's still kind of sticking up a bit. And I pulled too hard there, so I'm just going to pop that out. And I'm going to go back up. So that's about as best as you're going to get it. So you're going to have to turn and reshape it once you're done, but I'm sure you sew way better than me, so you can figure out how to sew it down. Now I'm just going to weave this guy in and around. So cut this off, cut enough off to make a knot. Because I know when I pick my guy up, I'm picking him up by this funny hair thing. I don't know why. It's probably because it's the biggest part. So make a knot, and then you can just jam this down inside your doll, tail and all. And then hope, if it tries to come loose, that it's gonna... So then you can just reshape it. You can just... because it's gonna be all wonky and out of shape, so... Now that we know where this is, we're gonna have an idea of where we sew our ears on. So I'm gonna do one ear with you. I do one ear on my own. Because just for time constraints. So gives you an idea. Ears can't be that low because we still got to put arms on. So my ears were way back here, about even to where I put his funny hair. So I'm gonna start sewing on, and then after I've got some sewed on, then I'm going to put stuffing in it. You can pin this if you have pins. Going right back up the same hole I just came out. We're trying to. Alright, my allergies today are just killing me. So bear with my sniffling. So I'm going to take a little bit of stuffing. And I'm going to shove it up that ear. However much you want. Actually, that might be enough. It's hard to do and stay on camera. That's why I say I'm going to do the other one without you guys. So, I would say that's about it for my ear. So I'm just going to weave in and out and around. Not pulling tight. So I've got both my ears on, which gives me an idea of where to put the eye. So I did one eye already. Now, I didn't put stuffing in these eyes, which I could have. No, I don't think I did at all. So I decided I was going to put stuffing in these eyes. So it's up to you what you want to do. There's enough room to put stuffing. So I put stuffing. You got to make sure the whites of the eyes are kind of going up. You'll have to look at a picture of Jigglypuff to know what I mean. But the whites of his eyeballs, you need to kind of be facing the same direction. So I kind of got this pinned, but not very well. So we'll see how this goes. So I stay inside. I don't sew on the outside of this because I don't want my stitches to show. Yeah, see, it's already not holding it. I gotta get some pins. I keep saying that, but so I'm just gonna go down. I'm on the inside and then back up. So that's all I'm doing, if that helps at all. But again, don't take sewing lessons from me. Just make sure you're going into the doll. It's very hard on the finger, but so now that I'm coming to the end, like I said, it's all up to you how much stuffing you wanted to put into it. Mine are googly eyes now. You can just come out somewhere, wherever you pop out, and tie a knot. This is how we deal with different colors of yarn. I do it with everything, as you know. Tie a knot. You don't have to try to get it as close to your Jigglypuff. Cut off some and then poke it down. There we go. I don't know how I feel about these eyes. Alright, so let's do this little mouth. I'm going to do the mouth differently than I did on the other one, I think. This one I just used yarn and I just did something simple, which I'm still going to do that simple little mouth because he doesn't have much of a mouth. But I use this really thin cotton. It's really tiny. It's like the 2/8 cotton. So you want to tie a knot at one end. Actually, I'm going to tie a double knot only because it's 2/8 yarn. And I absolutely love using this to embroider with. It is so easy. It's better than embroidery thread, personally. So it doesn't matter where you come in, it just matters where you come out. So pick a spot that you want your mouth. And I'm going to just come up here. Now you don't need to pull this knot through yet. You can probably better to poke the knot down as to pull it through. So come across to where you went in and go back out the same hole, just like that. So it gives him his upper little mouthy thing. So if you leave that loose, you take your needle and you're just going to wrap. Every once in a while, going into the doll wherever you want your lips, wherever you want your bottom lip to be. You can go into a little bit of the doll. This is time consuming, but it's going to look way better. So I want my mouth open, so I'm just going to go a little bit into the doll, just so it holds the mouth open. And I mean a little bit, meaning I'm just grabbing up the actual fibers of the pink. That's all I'm doing. Other than that, because this is where I want my mouth. So this is time consuming, absolutely. But it's so much worth it in the end, because it does look so much better. It gives it a fuller looking mouth. Especially if you're doing lips or something, I find. And it kind of takes away from these lines, so that you don't have funny lines. For the most part, I'm just going under the thread. Every once in a while I'll grab some fiber of the pink just to hold the mouth in place, like the middle here. I'm going to grab some pink fiber and then I'm going to pull up. Kind of helps define the shape, if you know what I mean. And then I just go back to picking up the black. So you can do whatever mouth you want. This is just what I wanted to do, so I did it. So I think that mouth looks better than that mouth, personally. And that's why I wanted to change it. So I think I got one more. I just got to wrap, and then I'm going to go down. Got a little bit to wrap here. Just the corner of the mouth. And then I'm going to go down, whoops, into the corner of the mouth. And I'm going to pop out somewhere. It doesn't matter where you pop out. So that kind of finishes it off, and then I'm going to tie a knot here as well. Or two. I'm going to cut some of this off. Oops. And then I'm going to poke these two things down into the doll. There, so now we have an idea of where we're going to put our arms. Set my guys aside here. So let's get your pink again. And your 5mm. Or your H. So the arms are so small. Oh, so are the feet. So do a magic ring. And I put 6 single crochets inside that ring. So you're going to put 1 single crochet, stitch marker, and an increase. One single crochet and an increase. So by now I don't think I need to tell you what an increase is. I think you probably figured it out with the cajillion times I've told you. 1 single crochet and an increase. So you should have 9 stitches. Pull your center there. Actually, considering we're doing an arm, let's pull our center tight, and then let's do this knot trick. That's not a trick, but it doesn't have to be a tight knot. It just needs to be a knot that's gonna stop it from opening. So next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's 1 with your stitch marker. That's 1. So that's your two single crochets, and then the next stitch is going to be your increase. So repeat that all the way around, and you should have 12 stitches when you're done. So the next 4 rows, turn that right side in, is just going to be 1 single crochet in each of those 12 stitches for 4 rows, and that's it. That's your arm. You can fasten off and make your other one. I will put the screen up for the pattern so you can make another one, and then what you're doing now, screen will go up for that first, and then screen for the pattern. So finish this, make your other one. Pretty sure I sewed the tops, yeah. So sew your top of your arms together so it's easier to sew onto the doll, and then we'll make the legs after. So I will meet you back here. So I've got my other arm done. I've already sewed my one on, but I was going to do this one with you guys. So go into the next stitch and then pull your sewing tail through. Tighten it up. Put a little bit of stuffing in there. We don't want to really overstuff our arms. We're just going to sew our top shut. Doesn't matter how you sew it shut, it's just going to be sewn to the body, so it's not super duper important that you know, do a proper whip stitch or anything. So I sewed my other one on already, so I just got to make sure. So I didn't go quite down below the ear. I kind of went a little ahead of it a little bit, so I'm going to try to make sure for this one I do the same, just a little bit ahead of the ear. So I don't want to be that close. So somewhere around this area I went down into the ear and then popped out. Just right here, I went back up into the same stitch, but I didn't go up into the ear. I went up as close as I could beside it. That just moves my thread. So I took my thread from here and put it back to where it was after this stitch. That's all that does. I'm going to go back down into the ear, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. just like that. And then we can weave. You don't have to do a super long weave if you don't want to. If you've got the yarn, then by all means, but again, it's not necessary, because you're going to end up tying a knot anyway, like this. Cutting that off. There we go. Onto the legs. Alright, moving on to the legs. The legs are just as small. I gotta fix my ball. The legs are just as small as the, well, they're a little bigger than the arms, but they're just as quick. So you can do a magic ring of 6 single crochets. You're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase. You're going to do 2 single crochets and an increase. So before I continue, I'm going to do my little knot at the back, because it keeps kind of coming open a little bit. So for the next 6 rows, you're going to put, you got 12 stitches, just like the arms, exactly like the arms. But with the arms we did 4 rows, and with the feet we're going to do 6 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So I will meet you back here after your 6 rows, and you're going to build the other leg with the pattern I'm going to put on the screen, and then stuff it, sew the top closed, and I will meet you back here to sew on. So I've got my other leg done. I've got one made and sewn on. So just go into this next stitch. Let's go into the next stitch. Pull that through. Pull tight. Show some stuffing down in there. So you're going to sew the top shut. For no other reason other than it makes it easier. To sew onto the body. So once your top is sewn, so I already sewed one of my legs on, so I go directly below the eye. And I go 4 up, just so it can sit up on its own. So I'm going to go the 4th row up, right underneath the other eye, and that's where I'm going to sew it on. So I'm going to press down like this, and I come up into the doll, into the foot, leg, foot, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to just keep doing that all the way across, going into the doll, coming up. Once you've got those, you can go down into the very last stitch, which is right on the corner. And that's where you can pop out wherever you want to pop out. So that's your Jigglypuff leg. So just right underneath the eyes. And then from here, you can just weave back and forth, in and out, wherever you want to go, and then do your knot. I'm not going to pull tight or anything. Now, because we've moved him around and he's all squished and out of shape, you're going to have to make him back, put him back in his shape. I'm going to tie a knot. So, put your Jigglypuff back into shape, and there you have it. Your Jigglypuff all done. Now I've got two Jigglypuffs. Two Jigglypuffs. That guy looks angry now. After I stuffed the eyes, kind of took the anger out of them a little bit, so I actually like this one better. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.